So we are here in Berlin at the Lightning Conference, and next to me is John Carvalho, who is the communication officer at Bitrefill, and he was about to do a presentation about Lightning products, except that it was too noisy. And I persuaded him to do it here for Bitcoin Magazine and answered some questions. So, what was your presentation about?
Basically, I wanted to talk about the product side and the profit side of being involved with the Lightning Network and what everybody's doing. I think we have enough people worried about the tech and the privacy and all these other aspects. So I just want to continue to be a force like I am in Bitrefill to be focused on actually making all this stuff useful for people that are actually using Bitcoin.
I spoke to Sergey last month, and you saw that interview, and you told me about it. And he was speaking of living on crypto, which is the tagline of Bitrefill. But you seem to be much more focused on Lightning, and you seem to be bullish about it and like so much about the technology. And there's so much upcoming stuff. I can't possibly keep up with all the launches and everything that was announced today. So, what gets you most excited about Lightning, and what's going to implemented in Bitrefill products?
There's a lot there to unpack, but what I'll say is from where you started, like the reason why I'm excited about Lightning in the context of living on crypto, like for Bitrefill, is because I actually think that when you compare Bitcoin transaction type on chain to layer 2 or Lightning Network, the actual facets of the transaction, um, Lightning transaction types are much more suitable for retail, much more suitable for commerce, of using Bitcoin, and aside from the aspects of storing Bitcoin or investing in Bitcoin. And so I think it is complementary to where if Bitrefill is going to be a force for helping build out a circular economy or a parallel economy for Bitcoin, that we do need Lightning to be a part of the answer of making that possible. So that's kind of why we feel like it's appropriate to be involved, despite being a gift card company, a phone refill company. As far as like what I'm excited about here and what Bitrefill will implement in the Lightning context, what we've been working on in recent months is we've identified that we think that in order for the Lightning to get to the next level, that you kind of need certain aspects of the infrastructure to be in place. So like we've started helping out with the Spectrum project. We're being able to do like layer 3 aspects for Lightning. So we're thinking way ahead. We've also we think that we've been talking to exchanges to see if we can get them and what they need to be in place for them to be able to be on the Lightning network. And so we've been working a lot behind the scenes and figuring out what products we need to build to enable to solve the problems to make all this happen. So I think in the coming months, you'll see the results of that. We don't have any announcements for this event, really. Justin mentioned in his presentation, since I wasn't sure if he was going to mention it, but we are going to add another aspect along these lines for the Thor products, which is going to be enabling essentially like a service level agreement, managed channels. So this way, if you want to know that you always have a certain amount of capacity, or even a certain amount of Bitcoin, like if you're a business, we'll automate, keeping you at that level, and we will settle with you out of band, as a business relationship. So basically, leveraging who we can trust to make Lightning work even better and get the results even faster.
Sounds interesting because I actually want to try the Tor channels sometime. They're kind of expensive, and I told that to Sergey.
Oh, that's another thing that I can say. We haven't done it yet, but it's not scary to announce. We've been looking at, we're redoing all the pricing, and so we're looking at getting the pricing as low as possible. But it's tricky because we almost made the same mistake again as we did with Bitcoin in the early days. Like everybody said, Lightning is scaling, Lightning is cheap, but Lightning isn't cheap. It's not going to be cheaper than Bitcoin until Bitcoin blocks are full. So right now, Lightning is actually kind of expensive, and it's not going to be like a given that you're going to be able to hop on and off the Lightning network and have services like Bitrefill exist, where the fees are going to be something that's going to be strictly, obviously, way cheaper than just using Bitcoin. Because right now there's still empty block space, and so we have to pay. All you're doing is you're paying us an added fee for the convenience of not doing something yourself with these tools. And so, but there are reasons to do that. Expertise, automation, whatever, business purposes, and so we're kind of focused in that area. So yeah, we're redoing the pricing. We're going to see if we can get it lower. So that'll be another thing that should be better, and maybe we'll try it.
Yeah, I will actually, because I have an assignment right now to study all the Node products, and most of them are nodes in a box, like the Casa, and there's one by Bitbox, which looks very interesting. They claim that it can sync the whole blockchain in 2 days, which is incredible to me. I will try it when it's out. And I know that also Bitrefill has a service in which you basically rent a node, and you can receive payments.
No.
You open channels.
Well, maybe I wouldn't word it that way. You can't rent a node from us, but you can access all of the services of our node by paying. So we won't spin up a node for you, but yeah, we are offering our node services.
I phrased it the wrong way, but you know what I meant. Yeah.
Well, the reason I make a distinction is because I know of at least one other entity in Lightning that is actually going to be doing spinning up nodes as a service.
Really?
Yeah.
I should look for them at the conference.
I don't know if it's open news yet, so we can talk about it later.
Okay. So, what is layer 3 and how do you define it? Is it just RGB spectrum stuff?
No, it's more like, okay, so if you take the concept that Lightning is actually a real, actual peer-to-peer network, whereas Bitcoin, yes, peers can communicate, for gossip and such, for the network to receive the block info, but on Lightning it's actually peer-to-peer. And if you start thinking about what do we use peer-to-peer networks for, well, you can probably do any of those things on Lightning, which means you can do any peer-to-peer thing and have baked in monetization. And so now can we use BitTorrent here? Can we do file transfer here? Can we do secure messaging here? Can we do mesh networking here? Pretty much, if you want to, get it all on there. But you don't want to bake all of these things into every Lightning node. So you start needing things like plugin functionality, better TLV support for doing what we want to do, like, for example, with Spectrum. But in the end, like, we started Spectrum saying, oh, let's get tokens on Lightning. But what it turned into is, in order to have that, you actually need DEX functionality on Lightning, because you need to be able to pass. Not only do you need to be able to have colored coins and channels, but you need to be able to pass them through nodes that don't even have anything to do with this. So you need liquidity. So you need to be able to kind of trade Bitcoin with these tokens, and almost have it like a DEX essentially. And so building layer 3 means adding plugin functionality or influencing aspects of how the protocol is built out, so people can build things on top of Lightning.
Yeah, that's very fascinating, really, because all the ideas that were around in the early Bitcoin days about what they can do with Bitcoin, and some of them ended up in altcoins, are coming back to Bitcoin right now because of layer 2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to regret saying this, but it's almost like we're having our own Ethereum moment. Like, we can actually do all the dumb things that Ethereum does, except on Bitcoin, and we don't have to make putting scams. We can just say, we don't have to do an ICO token. We don't have to, like, when I talk about having tokens on Lightning, it's not because I want people to do ICOs on Bitcoin. It's because there are actual use cases. Like, you can use tokens as centrally issued credit, Tether, whatever. And I do think that there is a paradigm for the circular economy where you want your time preference is nothing to do with investing in Bitcoin. It's just simply transacting instantly on this network.
So you said that the fees should not be an argument for Lightning. So should we focus on privacy and scalability instead?
Yeah, sort of. It's not that they shouldn't be. It's not wrong to say they're cheaper, but it's only right if you qualify that with that. It's cheaper because you can do high frequency, so you don't have to write to the chain every single time you want to move a small amount of money. But not everybody really needs high frequency out of Lightning, So to make it cheaper, for example, you need to know you're going to do at least 3 transactions in the first place, and then even then, where are the people who really could make use of high frequency? It's mostly, for now, probably going to be businesses. You know what I mean? Like, say you have exchanges. If exchanges want to add Lightning, they could have one really, really large channel, and they could do very high frequency, settlement between each other dynamically. And that's a use case for Lightning that you can't do with Bitcoin. Kind of do it with Liquid, but it's a different conversation.
Yeah. I suppose right now there is like a debate between what's next, Liquid, which is a federation of exchanges and traders, and then there's Lightning, which works for microtransactions and is much more decentralized.
Yeah. I think maybe if I was thinking out loud about what the contrast is with Liquid, you have a company that's incentivized to be able to actually work on business development and get uptake of their technology. They have people representing it that can go out there and convince other people to do business with Liquid. Lightning Network doesn't quite have that. I mean, yeah, I kind of do that, like through things that Bitrefill wants to do. I do end up doing similar things, getting people to, like, say, support turbo channels. But with Lightning, the network is totally public, and whereas Liquid, it's like you can pretty much trust it as if it were totally public, depending on how you use it. But the truth in the end is that it is just a sidechain. It's a different security model. There is a federation, and it may not even affect you to worry about that, but it is a different profile. There's a different
I heard this idea from Peter Todd about Liquid and Lightning possibly damaging the economic model of Bitcoin, in terms of the blocks will not fill anymore, so miners will not be incentivized to establish this fee market of which we speak right now.
I made this argument before Lightning existed as well. I used to say that any increase in scalability of miners, in a way, from one perspective, is actually anti-miner. Like, it's not surprising to me that miners were against SegWit, because it meant that the block space became more efficient. And so on one hand, they were fighting for bigger blocks, but now nobody's using the bigger blocks, and we added efficiency to Bitcoin, and now the fees are lower. So it's like, depending on how a miner views their investment in the network, you could take two different perspectives. You could say, oh, anytime they help scalability, they hurt me, because I'm less likely to get fees. And now they've even offloaded, some of the transaction behavior to a whole other network. So now do I have to, as a miner, should I be diversifying and also running Lightning nodes and making sure I'm a part of that? Should I find a way to, like, stake my Bitcoin into Lightning so I can provide liquidity and make money? Like, how do I monetize? How do I join this competition? Or you can say, well, any amount that you add scalability to Lightning means that we can get a whole lot more people in here, and a whole lot more commerce in here, and a whole lot more happening. Thus, the mining reward and the fees I get will be worth a lot more in buying power. So you can argue either side, but I do think it definitely affects the incentives of Bitcoin to have layers, to have scaling at all. It definitely changes things, and I don't know if it will result. I mean, in the end, settlement on chain is more valuable for a certain type of transacting. So I do think the blocks will fill as long as they remain cheap, but so we're not going to get to see how it really plays out until the blocks are filled.
Right. So are you still a fan of 300 kilobyte blocks?
Yes and no. The reason why I supported Luke on that, because I wanted to make sure that everybody was understanding the concept of why somebody would say this and not actually be totally crazy. It's like when we just went through a war, of defending not raising the block size, but we actually did raise the block size, and we actually did make the chain heavier as a result. And it did affect small businesses. Like, if you were running a startup and you could only afford one server, and now Bitcoin is hogging that whole server, it accelerated how long it is to now you need a dedicated solution to run Bitcoin as part of your business. So it directly contributed to centralization of Bitcoin to some degree. And what all Luke is trying to say is, look, it's an actual problem. Like, when you add friction to the ability to run a node, whether it be through cost, effort, whatever, less people will run nodes. And so all he's trying to say is, I want everybody to be able to run a node if they have the inclination to do so. And if we reduce the block size, it will force people to choose the right transaction type. So 300K is probably too small, but did we really need to raise it as high as we did through SegWit? Could we not have weighted the discount differently and maybe only had a little bit more size? And I don't know. We can debate this forever, but I just wanted to support him in that, because I don't think Luke is crazy, at least not in this regard. He definitely he's very religious and these things, and people like to tease him about that, and I just don't care about that. But on the tech side, he's not crazy.
He's actually a very competent developer.
Yeah.
He constantly makes contributions, and I suppose it makes a lot of sense in the future, possibly, when you use liquid and lightning, and you need smaller blocks to actually fill in.
Well, there are weird little it's hard to consider everything, and there are weird little things that you lose when you make a change if you don't consider everything. Like one little example that's interesting is it's easier to mask network traffic that's small, and so if the blocks were 300K and we were in an adversarial environment where they were trying to where it became risky to run a node, it would be easier to mask node behavior if the blocks are smaller. It'd be easier to transmit them via radio waves, or so that it make them more portable. They're literally more portable.
Yeah. So thank you, John, and thank you, Caleb, for holding the camera for so long. I appreciate it, and this was actually a great interview. So thanks
for having me.